90% of the world's battery-grade graphite is refined in furnaces that run at nearly 3,000 degrees, and almost all of them sit inside China. You have almost certainly never thought about graphite. It is the gray stuff in a pencil, the black powder that looks like nothing special. But it is also the single largest ingredient by weight inside the battery of every electric car on the road, and getting it into a battery is far harder than digging it out of the ground. In December of 2023, China's Commerce Ministry did something that barely made the front pages. It placed export controls on certain kinds of battery-grade graphite. No dramatic embargo, no shortage overnight. Just a quiet requirement that exporters now needed a government license to ship it abroad. To understand why that mattered so much, you have to understand the difference between having graphite and being able to use it. And that difference is where the whole story lives. Graphite comes in two forms. Natural graphite is mined from the earth, mostly as flakes locked inside rock. Synthetic graphite is manufactured from petroleum coke, a byproduct of refining oil. Both are just carbon, arranged in flat sheets, but neither is anywhere near clean enough to go straight into a battery. A battery anode needs carbon that is more than 99.95% pure, shaped into tiny rounded particles that pack together neatly. Raw flake graphite is jagged, contaminated with silica and iron, and completely unusable in that state. Turning it into anode material is a brutal, energy-hungry gauntlet of steps. First, the flakes are ground and shaped into microscopic spheres, a process so wasteful that up to 70% of the raw material is thrown away. Then comes purification. To strip out the last impurities, the graphite is either bathed in hydrofluoric acid, one of the most dangerous chemicals in industry, or baked in furnaces hot enough to boil away anything that is not carbon. Those furnaces are the heart of the whole thing. Graphitization furnaces heat the material to nearly 3,000 degrees Celsius, close to half the surface temperature of the sun. At that heat, disordered carbon rearranges itself into the neat, ordered structure a battery demands. Running one is enormously expensive, consumes staggering amounts of electricity, and takes decades of hard-won know-how to do consistently. This is the part the headlines miss. China does not simply mine the most graphite, it refines it. It runs the furnaces, operates the acid plants, and controls the spherical shaping. By most estimates, it processes over 90% of the world's anode-grade graphite and holds nearly all of the capacity for the highest purity synthetic material. So when those export controls landed in December 2023, battery makers from South Korea to the United States suddenly faced a question they had ignored for years. What happens if the licenses stop coming? Almost every gigafactory being built in the West still depended on Chinese anode material to fill its cells. The scramble to build an alternative had actually started earlier, and it has been painfully slow. Consider the companies trying to establish anode plants in North America and Europe. They can mine flake graphite readily enough. Mines in Mozambique, Madagascar, Canada, and Australia hold plenty of it. The trouble is everything that comes after the mine. Building the purification and graphitization capacity takes years of permitting, hundreds of millions of dollars, and access to enormous quantities of cheap, reliable electricity. And even when the money is there, the operational knowledge is not something you can buy off a shelf. That know-how is the real moat. China spent 2 decades perfecting graphite processing, absorbing the pollution, the energy costs, and the endless small failures that come with getting the temperature curves and acid handling exactly right. Each furnace campaign teaches lessons a rival starting from scratch simply does not have. There is also the pollution problem, and it is not small. Traditional acid purification produces hazardous wastewater and toxic fumes. Furnaces belch fine graphite dust into the air. For years, this was tolerated in ways that stricter environmental rules in Europe and North America would never permit, which is part of why the industry concentrated where it did. Newer approaches try to escape all this. Some companies are betting on synthetic graphite made from petroleum feedstocks, which is more consistent and easier to purify, but even hungrier for energy. Others are developing furnace designs that use cleaner electric heating and closed-loop chemistry. But scaling any of it to match China's output is a mountain that has barely been climbed. Governments have started throwing money at the gap. The United States placed tariffs on Chinese anode material and offered subsidies for domestic production. The European Union labeled graphite a critical raw material. Yet money moves faster than furnaces get built, and every project still faces the same wall of electricity costs and missing expertise. Meanwhile, China holds a card that makes the whole race harder. Because it controls so much refining capacity, it can flood the market with cheap anode material whenever a foreign rival tries to scale up, undercutting them before they reach profitability. That threat alone has stalled more than one Western project on the drawing board. The export controls of 2023 were, in a sense, a demonstration of that leverage. They did not cut off supply entirely. They simply reminded everyone who holds the valve. Licenses kept flowing, but the message was unmistakable, and buyers began quietly stockpiling and hunting for alternatives with new urgency. To see how deep the dependency runs, follow a single electric car battery backwards. The finished cell sits in a car assembled almost anywhere. But the anode inside it was very likely coated in China, from spherical graphite shaped in China, purified in Chinese acid plants, and graphitized in furnaces built and tuned over 20 years of Chinese experience. That is the uncomfortable truth beneath the clean image of electric cars. The energy transition the world is racing toward runs, in part, on a dirty, high-temperature industrial process that one country learned to master and the rest largely walked away from. Alternatives are coming. Plants are breaking ground in Sweden, in the American South, in Canada. Some may succeed, but building a furnace is the easy part. Learning to run it well, cleanly, and at a price that survives a Chinese price war is the challenge that will define the next decade of the battery industry. So the next time you see an electric car glide silently past, remember the furnaces glowing at 3,000 degrees somewhere you will never visit. The quietest, dirtiest, most overlooked link in the whole chain is also the one hardest to replace. And for now, it still belongs almost entirely to China.